Hello, today we'll be talking about reporting, specifically call center reporting. As a call center supervisor, in the upper right hand corner, click on the Reports button. The first report you're going to see is the queue stats report, and you can see you can change the date and times to be super specific or just generalized for a certain period or even just one day. So by default, there are a few columns you can choose. There's call volume, which if you click on shows you the number of calls that came in, the agent name who talked to them, how long they were on with the agent, what happened at the end of the phone call, where they were abandoned, forwarded to an answering machine. And then going back to the full report, you'll be able to see the next column. And these columns are all pretty customizable. So this is the calls handled column and the service level column. I'm going to click on calls handled. These are just calls that were actually answered. So we have 4 calls that were answered on this particular day, and they were answered by the same call center agent. You can see where they came in from, what number they called. DNS is the number that was part of your system that they called into. And then the term by just means they hung up. Now, you can add notes to these if you want to. If there's recordings, you can listen to them right here. But this is all kinds of things you can pull from this information. Next tab I'm going to show you guys is actually the table settings. So you can go through and change anything you want to and get granular. So you can see whether or not they left a voicemail, how many calls were offered versus the call volume. You can see average wait time, the service level, average hold time, abandoned calls, all this stuff. And then once you click out of this, it will refresh and show you all of the new columns. At the very bottom, it'll show you everything added up, so you can see everything for all of the queues, but across the board, it's just individual queues and stuff that you might need to see. Next is the Agent's Stats tab. This breaks down the reporting by agent instead of by call queue. So you can see the call center agent handled 4 phone calls, how long they were talking for, which is their talk time. This is their average talk time, so average from all the phone calls, which a little bit higher, so that's fine. All right, and then clicking on the time talking, you can go and see the individual calls, how much time they spent on each phone call, all that good stuff. This one's pretty straightforward, so just check that one out, and you can do it by all queues or one queue and that kind of stuff. So this is agent availability. This one's going to look weird on screen here because this is our test environment. So I'm the only person that's ever logged into this environment, and I have all of the availability. It still lists the other employees in the company because they are in the company, but for these specific instances, this is just the test environment. So this shows how often your calls are, your agents are available, whether or not they're in a meeting, whether or not they were on lunch break, any of those statuses that they use that you set up. You can also use your custom statuses in there. This is the dialed number stats page. It shows you, I'm going to just select the one we're playing with here. It shows you how many calls came in specifically for this queue. Ignore the very bottom line because for some reason, I've talked to the programmers, it still shows the addition for all of the queues. So we're just going to look at the call queue line here. This is the call volume for the direct number style stats. It's going to look a lot similar to the queue stats if the numbers are the same. But if you have a queue with multiple phone numbers, like if you advertised via Facebook or Google and those use different phone numbers so you can help track your different calls, this will be able to help you see what they've dialed in and whether or not they're making the service levels and getting their calls answered or leaving voicemails. Again, all of these reports have the table settings you can play with. Finally, the abandoned calls. These are the calls that were never answered. So right now we have 4 in this queue from today, and they were all from previous test calls that I was making during these videos. So it just shows you the number they dialed, how long they waited before they hung up, the queue name, all that stuff. Finally, under settings, you can set the service level agreement. So it means that the call is handled in a certain amount of time. So if you want the time to be a minute, and you want all calls handled as fast as possible, that's fine, 60 seconds. You can break it down that way. This is also where you create your custom statuses for call agents to use. So I like to usually make away from desk. You can make anything you want to. Reading a book, I hope they're not reading a book, but you can make it if you want to. Thank you so much for watching today. Please let me know if you have any questions at all. I hope you have a great day. Take care.